Welcome everybody to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and Attention Coach Jeff Copper. I want to talk about tips, tricks, tools, and strategy. They're all a buzz on the internet. And often I find if the obvious solution isn't working, often you're actually paying attention to the wrong thing. Think about that. If what's obvious isn't working, maybe you're paying attention to the wrong thing. And I think that people are paying attention to strategies. I need strategies. Everybody, give me a strategy, give me a strategy, give me a strategy. I need a plan. I need tools. I need tools. And what I've learned, if you're a regular listener to this YouTube channel, I talk a lot about problem solving, solving problems. It's interesting to me how I'll show somebody what problem solving is, and they'll switch it around. Oh, that's a strategy. No, it's not. Let's put this in a little bit of a context. Do you remember word problems in school? Kind of hated those. Well, you got a problem. What you do is you got to read a whole bunch of information. You've got to identify the relevant variables. Then once you have the variables, you got to put them together in such a way that you can actually solve the problem. In other words, you got to derive the equation. That's why we didn't like that in math class. Give me the equation, I'll solve the problem. Tips, tricks, and strategies, sometimes as if they're giving you the equation to solve the problem. What I say is really you should focus on learning how to solve problems. Now, how does this relate to strategies? Well, a strategy, when you think about it, is really a plan, right? I'm going to plan to do this every day, or I'm going to plan to go about doing this every day. The best way for me to illustrate this is like in business. Let's say that you're an entrepreneur and you want to increase sales. So you need to do some marketing, you need some promotion. So you come up with the strategy of I'm going to write a blog on a regular basis about certain topics in order to get people to become familiar with myself, come to my site and purchase. So the strategy is to get name recognition by writing a blog. So the plan is I'm going to write a blog each week. And, when I get it out there, people are going to comment and I'm going to reply on comments. And so it's a pretty good strategy and it's a decent plan. But have you ever noticed that stuff like that doesn't work? Why? Because there's a problem. People with ADHD in this situation know what a blog is. They might have a topic. The problem is when they sit down, they don't really know what words they're going to use, which individual ideas of the hundreds that are floating around their head they're going to use and arrange them in a way that is going to be interesting and compelling to the other people. So what happens is the Thursday comes, let's say when they're going to write the blog, and it comes and goes and they didn't do it. Now the strategy's there, but the strategy is not working. Why? Because there's an underlying problem. It's somewhat ambiguous as to what they're going to write. So this is subtle because everybody on the internet is offering a strategy, or a tip, or a tool, or something like that. And at the end of the day, ADHD is really more of a thinking impairment than most people realize. Got a lot of videos on this. If you go back, all the working memory videos, if you have been tuning into my lives on cognitive ergonomics, my live streams, I really get into that a lot. And so the idea here is I wanted to kind of come in, and I think that a lot of times people with ADHD, they're paying attention to the wrong thing. They're looking for the strategy, which is the plan, but they're not executing the plan because there's a problem along the way. Often that problem is related to solving problems inside your head, which is impaired. Often you need to get an accommodation to resolve it, which is kind of funny because I've had people come to me and say, well, what is that? I'm like, okay, let's think about this. If you're having a hard time solving a problem in your head, right? You need to think, how do I make this easier? What's interesting to me is how many people don't actually think, how can I make this easier? They want me to give them a tip, trick, or strategy to make it easier. Well, it really depends on your brain. It depends on what it is that you're kind of addressing in order to determine what's going to work. Okay, we're back to word problems, right? There's a certain level of understanding yourself in the situation in order to resolve it. So let me give you an example. The Pomodoro technique is a thing, it's a strategy, if you will, of managing time. And Again, this is past you guys a little bit, but like my cognitive ergonomics class, we define methodical thinking, trial and error thinking, and insightful thinking. We define it, but we also give mathematical problems for people to figure it out. Now, I will admit the Pomodoro technique is interesting and it can work sometimes with methodical thinking, but it is the worst thing for you to use if you're having to do insightful thinking. And so, again, this is a problem solving. You're taking a look at what you got and identifying what that problem is. And so, what's my message? It's that let go of all these strategies and all these tools and identify what's the underlying problem and begin to resolve it. A lot of what I do and this channel is try to do that. Like people that with ADHD, they struggle to get up in the morning. Well, it's not getting up in the morning. You're having a hard time getting up because you're sleep deprived. The reason you're sleep deprived is your brain is up doom scrolling and entertaining itself late at night. The issue is not getting up in the morning, it's going to bed. Well, why is that hard? Well, because lying in bed is boring. All right. It's boring. So what do you do? Well, you don't just go to doom scroll, which is really exciting and keep your brain up. You actually acknowledge, oh, I got to find something that's interesting enough to hold my attention, right? But not too interesting where my brain won't surrender itself to sleep. Well, what will work? Okay, we're back to problem solving. It depends on you. Now I can sit there and say adult coloring books I've had work before, having people play solitaire, listening to podcasts that they can barely. I mean, all that kind of stuff is individual, but at the end of the day, the issue is about resolving your particular problem. So I hope this has given you pause to think. I also want to say something else. It's really easy for people to market strategies and tools. They're tangible, they sound really good, they work in some situations, but if you'll notice, they don't work in like 90% of them. That's why you're drowning in a sea of strategy. So, anyway, I hope this gets you to pause to stop and think because I think a lot of times we're all paying attention to the wrong thing. So, if you're new to the channel and you like this, please subscribe. I try to put out information that's more like what's really going on as much as I can. If you're an existing follower, what do you guys think? I mean, you guys have heard a lot of this stuff in direct and non-direct ways, and can you identify it? Plus, we do what we do for you. We certainly appreciate any contribution that you hit the likes button or the heart button on the top. So with that, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.